Today, we celebrate Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islands Heritage Month. So please welcome back to Justice Southbury the immediate past president of the Connecticut Asian Pacific American Bar Association, Carolyn Ikari.
Woo! Thanks, man. Hello, happy Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Month. Did you know that May was Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Month? No, I'm getting some. Yeah. So at least one person knew before Rick posted.
I think I knew because you were here last year for it, honestly.
Jeremy just said, I think I knew because you were here last year. Yeah, I think it may have been 2 years ago. So I'm going to share with you some facts and figures, and then I'm going to talk about two subjects. The first is hate crimes, because sadly I still need to be talking about hate crimes. And then the second subject is alien land use laws. So Connecticut, obviously, is a rapidly diversifying place. And by a number of measures, Asian Americans are the fastest growing minority group, both in the United States and in Connecticut. For example, between 2000 and 2019, the number of Asian Americans in Connecticut more than doubled. So I have a few asks, as some of you will remember from previous visits that I've made here. I always give you guys homework. So here's some suggestions. The first is in recognition of this of Asian Americans' presence and growth in Connecticut. Keep your eye out for celebrations, Chinese New Year celebrations, May, AA, NHPI month celebrations, dragon boat races usually come up at the end of the summer, and join us. Just be there as an ally. Bring your kids, bring your grandkids, right? Normalize your children's experiences being surrounded by Asian faces. That's really, really important, and you'll see why in a second. For example, the statewide Chinese New Year celebration just this past February drew 800 people, for a day-long celebration of, dance performances and booths and politician speeches, and vendors and activities for the kids, right? Calligraphy and stuff like that. It was just a great day. And whenever you come to an Asian American festival or event, there's going to be food and it's going to be great. So, it's all good. All right. So that's one of my asks. Another ask is, along with the growth of Asian Americans, has been the growth of people, non-English speakers in Connecticut who require limited English proficiency services, all right? And 2 of the top 10 languages, non-English languages spoken in Connecticut, are Asian languages. So my ask is to pay attention, in particular, private sector as well, but also in particular your school system and your municipality, and make sure that their limited English proficiency accessibility includes Asian languages, all right? And so Chinese is in one of the top 5 languages, non-English languages spoken in Connecticut. That's Chinese, kind of Cantonese plus Mandarin mashed together, counted as one. And then Hindi is the other one. Hindi is by some measures the 8th most non-English language spoken in Connecticut. So that's my next ask then, is to keep an eye out for that language accessibility and make sure that we're including our Asian brothers and sisters. Okay, and my last ask, I think I might put a pin in my last ask. The bigger theme I want to bring out today is that there is a gap between the Asian American presence in Connecticut and in the United States and the power that Asian Americans wield in this country and in our political system. So, for example, the good news is that the Asian American Caucus up at the Connecticut General Assembly was just formed this session. So yay, there hadn't been one before. Also, boo, there hadn't been one before, right? So, so that is exactly the kind of thing, right, that I think can try to narrow that gap between the presence and the citizenship of our Asian American brothers and sisters and the actual power, including political power, that should be commensurate with that population, but is not. All right, so that brings me to hate crimes. I've spoken about this with you all before, and sadly, it's still a subject. I'll give you a couple examples. Last March, in an outlet mall in Allen, Texas, a neo-Nazi shooter chose that mall, it's believed, because it largely had an Asian American clientele who would shop there. And his online presence specifically used, anti-Asian slurs, vile anti-Asian language. And of the 8 victims of his shooting, 4 of them were of Asian descent. So, that's just last year. Also about 2 months before that, so this is January of last year, a college student in Bloomington, Illinois, Illinois, help me out. Bloomington. Indiana? Yes, she was an IU student. So an IU student there was getting off the bus and was stabbed in the head by someone else. I can't remember if they were riding the bus or getting on, who then later admitted and was charged with a hate crime because she perceived that person to be Chinese. And her explanation is, well, that's just one less person who could bomb us. So this is really important. That conflation of Asian faces and Asian people and the idea that they are Asian anything are a threat to our national security is a huge new and concerning issue, right? And that young woman almost paid for that stereotype, that really vicious false stereotype with her life. So sadly, hate crime is still a problem, so please pay attention when there are, there's ongoing efforts in Connecticut. The law enforcement community and the civil rights community, for the most part, have been pretty good about trying to give outlets for reporting and that sort of thing. So please support those efforts when you can. And so that brings me to my third ask. I may have lost count. Which is to please support the efforts in Pampurog and just wherever your school system is in embracing and implementing the Asian American history curriculum. Okay, so Asian American history is now mandated as part of the secondary social studies curriculum. Connecticut, you should be proud. Connecticut is one of the first states in the country, or maybe the first state, to do that. Yeah, I think they were first. Jeremy's saying that he thinks they were, so. Yeah, but you might have heard that from me, so. No, I think I'm right. So here's why this is crucial, right? I know a lot of you are educators, or you have a lot of folks in your audience who are educators, and they know that gap, right, between what the Department of Education tells them to do and then what actually happens. And so please be vocal and vigilant about the implementation of that curriculum in your schools. And here's why this is important. In my view, the only way to get at the menace of anti-Asian hate crime is education, and in particular, Asian American history, right? A lot of times we say, right, Black history is American history, right? Same is true for Asian Americans, and in particularly because we the cliche is we are forever foreign, right? And it's because we walk around with names that are different, right, or distinctive, and these faces, right? So, you know, no matter how red, white, and blue I am on the inside, right, I'm still going to get asked, like, so where are you from, really? And I get told once in a while, like, oh, you speak such good English. Thanks. That's great. I'm from Maryland. Right? And so, but if you can weave through that narrative, right, that, for example, the Chinese American contribution to the building of American railroads, right, was foundational and crucial to opening up the West. And, you know, I've spoken to all of you before about my personal family's history, right, that most of them were held in American concentration camps on the West Coast during the Second World War, right? You know, all those pieces of American history that have, you know, an Asian American aspect to it, it really does need to be integrated and embraced by the curriculum, because that will help to dispel that stereotype, right? That Asians aren't really American, right? The Asians aren't really our citizens and our neighbors and our brothers and our sisters. And it's that stereotype that leads us to face, frankly, an existential threat to our personal safety. And so I think the educational step is necessary but not sufficient, but necessary to start to change this. Because Asian Americans continue to be targeted, right? We've talked about this before. It started, in my view, in 2020 when Trump called COVID the China virus, and it's just gone. It hasn't gotten better, I guess, is the sad news, is the bad news. So that brings me to my last topic, which is now there is this conflation between being Asian and being a threat to the United States national security. Okay, so the lady on the bus, right, for some reason thought that this lady with the Asian face was like a danger to the United States and felt a need to attack her, and she has been charged with a hate crime, by the way. But here's how that's playing out, and some of you may have seen this in the New York Times. So certain states who are led by politicians who want to make a particular stand, that they, recognize this terrible Chinese threat, and so they're going to pass all these laws. So Florida has already done it. So there is an alien land law, which is the kind of thing that you really wouldn't have thought would be happening in the 21st century, and yet here we are. So I'll give you the example. So in Florida now, Chinese nationals are forbidden from owning real estate within certain mile radius of infrastructure that's considered critical, right? Which in any densely populated area is like everywhere, right? So I was in D.C. last year lobbying on this issue, trying to get some congressional action to prohibit these kinds of laws. And I met somebody who's also in the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association, and the effect of this law has been that her aunt cannot inherit her grandmother's house, right? Her grandmother came here, owns this real estate, wants to leave it to her daughter, right? Which, like a lot of us do, we can have a conversation about the intergenerational transfer of wealth another time, but if you're into that, right? This poor lady, you know what I mean? She died thinking, well, this is in my will, my daughter will get my house. Her daughter is a green card holder and a Chinese national. Nope, not going to happen. It's illegal in Florida now, okay? Because of where the house was close enough to, I don't know, a dock or something like that, or or a power plant, or power lines even. And this has had downstream effects, right? And so now realtors in Florida and mortgage bankers are really not interested in working with Asian Americans, right? Because once they see that Asian name, they're rolling their eyes and like, oh no, like is this is going to happen? This is not going to happen. And you know, we all know that in the real estate market, there's enough like invisible barriers and unspoken barriers, and so this is just another one. So, so I guess I have another ask, which is to be aware of this issue, right, and to understand that when people talk about national security and we can talk about this too, the terrible things that the Chinese government does and has done, and the anti-competitive things it has done, and the genuine national security threat, right, that is posed. I'm asking you to please be sensitive to make sure that the way we respond to it isn't reactionary, right? There are multiple states where laws like this, particularly the land ownership laws, are pending because it looks good to a certain political constituency, right? Like, I'm fighting for you. I'm protecting you against this Chinese menace, right? But as soon as you talk in terms of the China virus, the Chinese menace, you know, it takes its toll, and it ultimately results in physical danger to people like me and people who look like me. So that's my last ask. So anyway, happy Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Month. Find an event, eat some Asian food, you know, support a local Asian business owner. That's another big one. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being here for the last 4 years. You guys are inspiring more than you know. So thanks so much.
Woo!